Okay, so today we're talking to Anthony Dursi, the Outreach and External Relations Manager of Inner Temple. Hello Anthony, thanks
Hi.
for talking to us.
Of course.
We're just going to ask you a few questions about the bar and how to sort of form a career there, build a career there. So for anyone who's completely new to the concept of the bar and is just considering a career in law, can you just sort of briefly talk us through the qualification process to becoming a barrister from leaving school to the moment that you qualify as a barrister?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a very clear diagram in the careers guide that Inner Temple produces. But just to walk you through it, after school, you'll either decide to do a qualifying law degree, so that's often an LLB at most universities, or a non-law degree, so there's English, or history, or politics, or any other. If you do a non-law degree, you then have to do a one-year law conversion course, often known as a GDL or CPE. That can be done 2 years part-time as well. Students should be aware that, of course, that adds an additional cost, especially after tuition fees of university. So they'll want to pick carefully and decide which of the academic stage is best for them. After that, they'll go on to the bar professional training course. So that's at 12 locations across the UK now. Once again, they should look carefully at the costs involved, and they should consider whether the bar route is right for them. If they want to become a solicitor at this stage, they'll be doing the LPC, the legal practice course instead. After that vocational stage, you then have the one-year apprenticeship in chambers, so that's called a pupillage. And after that successful stage, there's the tenancy. So a tenancy is a full position within chambers or an employed bar institution, so the government legal service, for example. Now that's in the perfect world. Of course, there's many difficulties along the way. You might not secure pupillage right off the bat, so that's maybe in an ideal situation, but you will want to factor in time apart from that.
So the bar professional training course, the BPTC, is the stage at which you begin to specialise and choose to become a barrister and go down that particular route into the legal profession. So what are the key sort of deadlines and things to remember about the bar professional training course for anyone thinking about applying to take the course next year?
Well, it's a hugely busy time for students the year before and leading up to when they intend to start the BPTC. Extraordinarily busy, you might think. So just to take you through really briefly, the November before, so that would be the November before you're going to start in September or October the following year, the BPTC. The first Friday in November is the Inns of Court scholarship deadline. So that's extraordinarily important, and we might go into that a bit later. Shortly after that, days after that, the BPTC online will open for applications. So that's the actual application for the course itself. That will close in January, early January thereabouts for the first round. The second round, the clearing round, opens in February. Now after that, students will be thinking about applying for pupillage. That's normally in April time. So they will have to have obviously done quite a lot of work between when they're applying for the bar course and when they're applying for pupillage, including work experience and other things they'll want to put on their CV. The 31st of May is the deadline for applying to the Inns of Court. So as you can see, there's lots to consider. During this whole time, students will also now have to complete the bar course aptitude test. That's an aptitude test that you have to successfully go through in order to get onto the BPTC. It's done through Pearson's View, so students will need to look up, register for that, and take it as they're doing these other things.
Okay. And you mentioned obviously Inns of Court and Inns of Court scholarships. Just for anyone new to the whole concept of the Inns of Court, obviously I understand they're important to join as part of your attempt to join the bar and start your career as a barrister. So could you just explain briefly what the Inns of Court are, what they involve, and sort of what the scholarships entail as well?
Absolutely. Well, you have to join an Inn of Court in order to be called to a bar, so you have to join before you start your BPTC. And for student members, they'll particularly want to consider the scholarships on offer. So there's £5 million across the Inns of Court. That's a huge sum of money. And many of the BPTC courses go up to about £17,000. So it's quite an expensive course. You'll want to be able to know that you can put forward a competitive application. One way to do that is to assess yourself through the scholarships process. So for Inner Temple, for example, we're giving £1.5 million this year, and that will be roughly 100 scholarships. So that will range, all of them are done in terms of merit, but then need is taken into account for some of those in terms of how much money you receive. So you could win quite a high-level meritocratic award, but if you don't need the money, it would be less, or vice versa. Now, these are incredibly important for your career as a barrister. Over 90% of our senior scholars go on to get pupillage. More than 60% of our major and exhibition winners go on to secure pupillage. So it's a big stamp of approval. So I would say any student thinking seriously about a career in the bar should be applying for Inns of Court scholarships. But more generally about the Inns, we're educational bodies. That has been our foundation. We date back to the 14th century, so quite a rich legal history and really an important part of the English and Welsh legal tradition. So we're membership bodies for barristers and the judiciary. We support students into the profession through, as we've been mentioning, scholarships, but also through support schemes. So for example, a mentoring scheme with more senior barristers, or a mock interview scheme right before your pupillage interviews. And then thereafter, a huge amount of educational provision. So when you're on the BPTC, you have to undergo 12 qualifying sessions. You have to take lectures, there's residential weekends, there's presentational skills sessions. There's an amazing offer to really complement your BPTC course. And then as a pupil, you have to undergo a very intensive advocacy training program, and as a new practitioner, so your first 3 years in practice. There's quite a lot of advocacy training to do at the Inns. And even as an established practitioner, you'll be involved doing your continuing professional development here at the Inns of Court. So they remain a very important institution for anyone wanting to consider the bar.
Sure. What factors do you think are important to consider when choosing which Inn of Court to join?
That will be a very personal decision. Obviously, the Inns will offer the same type of provision, and it won't affect your future career. Whether you decide to join Lincoln's Inn, Middle Temple, Gray's Inn, or as we are here in Inner Temple, it won't affect you. But what you should think about seriously is the procedures for scholarships, so those vary across the Inns. The deadline is the same, I hasten to add, so that's the first Friday in November before the BPTC, and the first Friday in May for the GDL, the Law Conversion Course scholarships. But whether you're automatically interviewed will be different between the different Inns. Whether need is taken into account for the scholarship amounts will be different across the Inns as well. So carefully consider that. But much of it is where you feel most comfortable, its history, its atmosphere, the types of programs it runs, the educational provision. We're quite proud here of our history and being the first to call a female to the bar, for one example. Also the work we do on social mobility is very important to us. We're quite academic and progressive Inn. But many of the other Inns would say the same. So students really have to work it out for themselves, and they can do that by taking tours. They can do many events at the different Inns of Court. We all have a raft of careers initiatives for university and school students. So look at those on our websites, or give us a call. We are here to help.
Okay. And finally, obviously the competition for pupillage places is quite intense, because there are obviously a very limited number of places and a lot of people who want to join the bar and become barristers. So do you have any tips for those considering making pupillage applications in the next year or two?
Well, it is a very competitive profession, most recently with the pupillage gateway. So that's the kind of all-pass of pupillages. It was about 12 applicants for every one pupillage space. So that's a very high level of competition, and that these will be some of the leading people in your class. So you should really think carefully about whether you have what it takes to come to the bar. Now that will include academic attainment. You will need to demonstrate that. Why is that? Because actually that work correlates quite closely to the work that you'll be doing as a barrister. It's a hugely academic profession, So you'll want to see if your academic attainment matches the academic attainment required to come to the bar. If you have a 2-2, it's going to be very, very difficult to secure a place at the bar. Securing pupillage with a 2-2 is very tiny proportion, so I would strongly recommend someone with a 2-2 to think again, and to undergo as much as they can to improve their CV if they are then going to, regardless, come to the Bar of England and Wales. Apart from that, there'll be things about, they'll look at work experience. So normally we recommend between 3 to 5 mini pupillages in different practice areas to be able to strongly support an application. And if you're having a hard time finding a mini pupillage, so work experience in a set of chambers, you can look at the Pegasus Access Scheme, which we launched 2 years ago, and hopefully with that we can support you in finding work experience in chambers, getting your foot in the door. But I'd say probably my biggest piece of advice is don't lose yourself. Don't lose what makes you special, what makes you unique, what makes you an individual. It doesn't have to be an international internship in Rwanda. What it can be is caring responsibilities or part-time jobs, but you'll need to be able to relate that to a practice at the bar and be able to show that the competencies you've picked up in those experiences relate quite closely, match what chambers are looking for. And of course, the bar is a big umbrella. You know, a pupillage application and pupillage interviews at a commercial set of chambers will be very different to one at a criminal set of chambers, which will be very different to one at the Government Legal Service or Crown Prosecution Service. So that's the employed bar, which is 20% of the bar, and a growing proportion. So it is a broad church. They should look at many of the guidance that we have online and look at some of our support structures before they go on that process.
Great. Anthony, Dursi, thanks very much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.